After 8 months and 12 rounds, the GNCC title has come down to the final round. And what was once a 2-horse race is now 3, thanks to Fred Andrews, who won for the second time of the year in Ohio. He joins round 4 winner Mike Lafferty, just 11 points behind the 3-time titleist Rodney Smith. A win today at the Ironman just might be enough. One of the most competitive seasons ever in GNCC racing, presented by Suzuki, will come to a close today in Crawfordsville, Indiana. We get set for round 13 action. Today, it's all about the championship. Rodney Smith, Mike Lafferty, and Fred Andrews, the men who have the best chance, know exactly what it's going to take to get the job done today.
Just need to get my Suzuki up front, get a good start, and just try to have a good race. Try to get up on that podium today. Podium finish will actually clinch the championship, so I just know I need to get first, second, or third no matter what happens. So I'm hoping to get a good start and ride a real strong race today, and I think things look good.
Well, I need a little bit of luck. I think, if I win the race, Rodney has to get 4th or worse. And, Rodney's good. Anything can happen, but I got to win. So if I don't win, it doesn't matter how anybody does.
I'm Dave Reef. Next to me, the 5-time series champ Scott Summers, who knows all about titles.
Yeah, basically here's the deal. If Rodney finishes in the top 3 spots, he wraps his championship up. However, if he finishes outside the top 4, then all of a sudden Andrews and Lafferty have a shot.
But they have to win. Other people not mathematically eliminated. Mike Kudrowski, also technically Jason Raines, but the earth would have to fall off his access for those guys to have a chance, especially if Raines not even right.
Right.
Look at the starting grid for our Crawfordsville, Indiana round. The names and numbers of the guys you've been watching all season long. We expect to see a handful of them at the front of the pack when this race gets kick-started.
Cole Calkins on the inside.
One rider stalled at the back of the pack. Great helicopter shot from Thomas Lanahan. Extra coverage this week.
Got a few open turns before they funnel down into the woods. Looks like there was an accident in the second turn. Not sure who that is. Looks like a Suzuki. Mike Kudrowski, I believe, is at the very back of the pack.
David Knight, the number 639. Your whole shot artiste.
David Knight's kind of a wild card. He's a British, actually an English rider. Just recently finished 5th overall at the 6 days event over at the Czech Republic.
Here's what the start looks like if you're on board from Mark Hyde's perspective. Rush hour.
Steve Hatch down in the first turn, getting some encouragement from the camera guy, Mark Hyde.
Jacksonville State's best right up there, about 1,800 foot, giving us these great shots.
We mentioned David Knight. David is also the British Enduro champion, winner of the cross-country series that Paul Edmondson started, kind of mimicking the GNCC series here in America.
New race leader Chuck Woodford, he's the first guy to come through this line. He's seeing almost pitch it away as another new rider, the 532, David Fertine.
Yeah, David's the 250 4-stroke champion at the ISDE this year. And very impressive riders in a different style of off-road racing.
Very impressive track too, the Ironman GNCC.
Yeah, this is a very technical course. It's got some big open cornfields where the guys can really open the bikes up, but also some steep hills and some deep water crossings.
Got to bring your 3-hour endurance package too, because that's what it's going to take today.
Barry Hawk looking really strong in the early stages of the race.
Have to get warm. Good news. Splash in the creek there. One of the many creek crossings. Cole Calkins in 6th. One of the checkpoints out on the course.
Doug Blackwell on the big 4-stroke Honda, followed by Mike Lafferty on the 4-stroke KTM. There goes one of those Garahan brothers on the 769.
Brian Garahan, his brother, still on the men.
Robbie Jinks, Randy Hawkins, Jimmy Jarrett, and
Shane Watts giving it another go.
He keeps trying to make that wrist hold on for 3 hours, and he hasn't had any luck yet.
Traffic jam at the checkpoint there. Somebody killed their bike.
Andy Shea on the KTM out in front of Steve Hatch. Andy's one of his first debuts in the pro class after having already won the 258 class this year.
talked at the beginning how competitive this season has been. Listen to these numbers. 6 different race winners, 9 different guys visiting the podium, multiple points leaders, 3 guys with a realistic shot at this championship.
It's been a really exciting year this year for GNCC Racing. And now this is going to be kind of strange because they're seeing these riders they've never seen before.
On a course they've never seen before, because you don't get a chance to go out and see these things.
That's right. They're not allowed to walk the track anymore. They can, well, they can see it on the first lap, which is what they're doing right now.
That means Barry Hawk's getting the first bird's eye view because he's your race leader. It's Hawk atop the standings in the early part here from Crawfordsville, Indiana. David Knight holds on a second. The Ironman Grand National Cross Country Off-Road Race is being brought to you today by Suzuki, maker of innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles, and by MSR Off-Road Riding Apparel, innovative off-road riding apparel for riders with a single-track mind since 1971. How about the 6:39? David Knight, your new race leader.
You know, David finished second this year in the 6 days, and that was in the 252-stroke class, which is a very competitive class. He finished 5th overall, which is all the best riders in the world. And now Rodney Smith, Fred Andrews, Chuck Woodford, they're all getting a glimpse of what kind of speed he's got, what this foreigner is capable of doing in the woods in America.
And Mark Hyde is giving us a glimpse of just how tough it is with the shadows growing long. Sun.
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky because the shadows make it difficult for your eyes to adjust. Get out in the bright sunshine of those cornfields and you drop into the woods where it's kind of dark. It takes just a little bit to figure it all out. And David's doing a pretty good job of it. This is his first GNCC, by the way, and he's leading the likes of Fred Andrews, Rodney Smith, Barry Hawk. It's pretty impressive.
Barry Hawk, one of those 6 different winners, captured the round 11 event. Boy, it gives you an idea how treacherous this corner is. Look at that.
Yeah, there's actually pieces of an old concrete bridge, I believe, that cars used to cross many years ago, and makes for a difficult spot. Mike Lafferty had a pretty bad start, and he's kind of working his way up, 6th place.
Chuck Woodford, been about 5th place this entire race. Just trying to hold on. Led about the first 3 laps of our last round before tiring out a little bit. After all, these things are endurance races.
Yeah, they're very physical.
Oh, and here's Rodney Smith. He's in the position he needs to be in. Podium, he's got his championship locked up, but still a long way to go.
That's right. If you try to ride conservative, a lot of times you find yourself going backwards. You know, you really have to be aggressive, and I think it looks like that's what Rodney's doing. This is a really tricky section here. This water, there's hidden rocks underneath that water, and evidently, from what I could gather, looks like David Knight hit that thing with a lot of steam.
Looked like Rodney Smith had a pretty good advantage there too. Might have got around Fred Andrews. You might expect, wow, you saw that jagged edge.
Yeah, Mike Lafferty takes a little different line down the side, those big chunks of concrete, whereas everybody else went up on the top.
Finishing my thought, you might expect Rodney Smith to kind of come out here and just kind of put it on cruise control a little bit and kind of just coast his way to this championship. But as crazy as this season has been, I bet he's not even thinking that way.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. You want to be aggressive, but you also want to be careful. There's a fine line there between putting in your best performance and getting yourself an ambulance ride. So these guys are all pretty smart. They all made many laps around the track, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Plus, let's face it, you guys are racers. You don't really know any speed other than full.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. You can get into this mode where you're just a machine. You're physically working really hard and spending a lot of energy, but yet you have to have a lot of finesse. And it's a lot of fun to watch these guys think their way and negotiate their way around these courses.
Top 3 remain the same: Knight, Andrews, Smith. Take a look at Mike Kudrowski. Mathematically, he also had a shot at the title, but 14th place certainly not get the job done today at Crawfordsville, Indiana. Back at the GNCC finale in just a moment. Dave Reef and Scott Summers welcome you back to Crawfordsville, Indiana. We've got a new leader in the clubhouse. David Knight has fallen off the pace. Andrews controls the point now. Rodney Smith moves up to second.
You know, David evidently had a crash and stopped in the pits, was working on his clutch first.
Growski, meanwhile, mired back in 14th place. So now, you're Rodney Smith. You know you have to finish on the podium. Fred Andrews is right ahead of you. Do you press?
I'll tell you what I would do. I would probably let Fred go, tuck in behind him, and just relax. Let Fred run the pace and you know, not take any chances.
Mike Lafferty, the other championship contender, further back in the pack.
This is a pretty steep uphill right after that creek crossing, and there was 3 different options. Basically, if a guy had a problem, you wouldn't choose that option. You'd go to one of the other 2. A lot of fans out there on those hills cheering guys on and hooting and hollering.
Looks like the championship will boil down to 2 men now. Andrews and Smith. Knight's got his machine back up and running, sitting in 5th place.
And like I mentioned, David finished 5th overall at the ISDE. Rodney Smith finished 4th overall at the ISDE in 1992, 10 years ago. He graduated high school in 1982 and has been making a living racing motorcycles for 20 years now.
Yeah, he's old in motorcycle standards, isn't he?
I believe he's about 38 or 39, and it's pretty amazing to think that we may have a 40-year-old GNCC champion. What an athlete.
Mark Hyde pinning the throttle, giving us a look at what it's like to run the course through the trees. Kudrowski's moved up now 4 positions. Cracked the top 10. Right now, it's all about his FMF Suzuki teammate. Through the checkpoint, here comes some pit stops. Fred Andrews will make his stop.
And this is for all the marbles. These guys have been racing all year long, and what happens today is going to determine who is the top dog.
Rodney Smith makes his pit stop as well. Probably a good time. You want to keep pace, keep Fred Andrews in your sight. Perfect time for a pit stop then.
We just saw Josh McLeavy on a Yamaha for the first year. He's been riding a Honda all year long.
Comes Lafferty as the first and second place riders are away.
He dropped his goggles on the way in. That saves him a little time. Puts on fresh ones.
Might notice on our graphics when the riders come in, the mechanics helping them out. A lot of times it's a family member like Norma Woodford for Chuck.
That's right. These guys or girls take a real personal interest. They know how important it is to have a good stop.
We know how important it is to crown a champion. We'll do that in just a moment. The Ironman Grand National Cross Country Off-Road Racing Series is being brought to you today by MSR Off-Road Riding Apparel. Innovative off-road riding apparel for riders, a single-track mind since 1971. Back at round 13 action, the laps start to wind down. Our 3-hour time frame down to about final 60 minutes now. It's crunch time. The championship is on the line.
You know what's amazing is a lot of guys maybe start the season not being in the best shape, but by this time of the year, they can absolutely pour it on and ride at 100% for the whole 3-hour period.
Fred Andrews, one of those guys we talked about earlier this year.
Absolutely. Fred's one of those guys. Rodney Smith's one of those guys. Chuck Woodford has shown us lately that he's one of those guys. And we don't really know that much about David Knight. We know he has a lot of speed, but we don't know how much endurance he's got.
Rodney's kind of lost sight of Fred right now, so I'm sure he might be chewing on his fingernails if he had the time. As David Knight has fallen back to 5th place, so that stamina coming into play.
And something else happens on this course, you know, as riders circulate, the course gets rougher, the bumps get bigger, the roots and rocks get more exposed. But the other thing that happens is the riders get better knowledge of the course. So the riders are actually going faster, but the terrain gets rougher. The end result is a lot of times the lap times stay pretty much the same. But it's a lot of fun to watch a guy finesse his way through the woods. I've been to a lot of different sporting events, and there's nothing quite like the excitement or the thrill of watching these machines absolutely fly by you in terrain that it's difficult to even walk through.
Steve Hatch, the third member of the FMF trio, right now riding in 8th place. His teammate Mike Kudrowski not too far behind him. Fred Andrews has now got his hands full. Smith is caught back up. I suppose Fred knows who's behind him?
Yeah, I think that's probably hurting his feelings a little bit. I'm sure he would wish that Rodney would be a few more spots back, because Fred knows Rodney needs to get 4th for Fred to win this championship. So I'm sure deep down, Fred's rooting for guys like Mike Lafferty to get up there, join the mix, give Fred a chance to win this championship.
MX Kid still in 10th place. Not the way that he wanted to end a season. It's been a little off key.
Yeah, but you know what? Mike deserves a lot of respect. There's a motocross guy, came into the GNCC series, and it would have been real easy for him to go home and not come back. But he's shown a lot of perseverance and a lot of desire. And you know, Jason Raines was in his 4th year this year. And look where Jason was. He was in position to win this championship until he broke his leg. Of course, now things have changed. But next year, guess what? Mike Kudrowski is going to be in his 4th year. And we'll just have to wait and see if he has a performance as productive as Jason Raines' earlier season was.
Everybody looks like they're going to be back. You know, Robbie Jenks, Barry Hawk are going to be there. Chuck Woodford has shown a lot of speed this year.
That's right. As exciting as this year has been, next year could be that and even more.
Well, the 11th hour negotiations are over. Who will be crowned champion? Fred Andrews, Rodney Smith, or Mike Lafferty? Find out in a moment. The Ironman GNCC Off-Road Racing Finale is being brought to you today by Suzuki, making innovative motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles. Visit your Suzuki dealer and see the complete award-winning lineup today. Well, once again, the scenarios for Rodney Smith, your new race leader. Finish on the podium, the championship is yours. For Fred Andrews, you need to win, coupled with Rodney Smith finishing in 4th. That's the scenario.
Well, you know, that kind of surprises me to see Rodney pull out in front of Fred. Rodney's probably thinking, you know what, it would sure feel good to show these guys that not only am I the best guy this year, but I'm the best guy today. And he must be feeling comfortable, otherwise he would never have made that pass.
Championship scenarios now for Mike Lafferty, who's up to 3rd. Same for Fred Andrews. To win, needs to finish 4th or worse.
Right, Mike Lafferty's hoping that somebody's going to come up from behind him, because he knows that Rodney has to get 4th. Not only do Fred and Mike have to beat him, but somebody else does too.
David Knight maintaining his position, top 5. Great run for him. Great to see him come out and join the party next year.
It's a very impressive showing for a person's debut. Typically a guy that rides the GNCC for the first time gets a rude awakening and doesn't get to spend much time with the leaders.
Fred Andrews might have to start pressing a little bit now. Try to force Rodney Smith into making a mistake as his teammate Chuck Woodford's back in 4th. Laps winding down. It's crunch time.
Mike Lafferty didn't start off all that great, but he's definitely had his concentration on. He's put his head down, he's gone to work, and we're not seeing many mistakes out of Mike today.
Oh, wow. How about that? Side by side, Rodney Smith and Andrews come from opposite lines. They could have taken each other out.
That's right. That's pretty intense for a guy who's got the championship at stake. I kind of expected Rodney to get on the brakes and let Fred ride around, but he wants to show these guys that he's the fastest guy today.
We'll swap a little plastic. You want the championship, you got to get past me, big boy. Come and get it. Good stuff as the laps wind down.
You know, these guys are having fun, too. There's something exciting about having all eyes on you. When they come through the pits, everybody's cheering and jeering. Everybody wants to know what's going on, and they are the show. And there's a lot of excitement to that. They enjoy being there. They're out there screaming at each other and really having a good time.
Back out on the flag. That means the checkered flag is not far behind for the top two. Andrews is going to make a move. He's going to have to do it now, and expects to win the championship. He may have to do something he might regret. Rodney Smith's not giving him the chance. He's pulled about a 3 or 4 second gap.
And the end is near.
The end is very near. That is the checkered flag, and that is your 2002 Grand National Cross Country Champion. Rodney Smith has done it. Great finish for Fred Andrews, who comes home in second. Mike Lafferty falls off the pace a minute 3 behind Rodney Smith. Who'd have believed it? After all of the crazy things, the cream still rises to the top. Rodney Smith gets the job done. He not only wins, but he's your champion to boot. He didn't back his way into this one.
You know, it turned out to be a good day, and my Suzuki is working great, and FMF was, you know, helped us out all year. RG3 suspension, my Moose clothing, everybody's been great to me all year long. None of us has given up, and I think that's what's made a champion of me. It's sweet. It's come down to the wire. None of mine have ever came this close, and before the race started, I was just like, well, there's no more added pressure. You know, anytime I knew when there was 4 races to go or 2 races to go, I could win the championship, I went out and did what I had to do. It wasn't like I was nervous and then went on to the next race. I always did what I had to do with that race. And I just told my wife, I told Lori and Casey, my mechanic, I said, you know what? When it comes down to it today, I go, really, there's 2 races left. We just need to go out there and clinch this thing today. So I looked at it as if we still had more races. I just need to go out there and do what I needed to do.
So where's Rodney heading next week?
I think he's racing to the bank is where he's going.
No arguments there. Rodney Smith, the champion. Fred Andrews comes home second, 16 points back. A guy who said he wasn't that concerned with the championship. Still, feel pretty proud.
I had to get up front and get in the lead and see what happens. And, you know, I fell down the first lap and had to come from behind. I got up to the lead, and, you know, Rodney's a smart guy. He knew what he had to do. Him and I he followed me around, and, man, we had a lot of fun. You know, I hate losing the championship, but I really had a lot of fun riding with Rodney today. And, you know, I tried my hardest, and I caught a lapper, and, you know, Rodney got around me, and then I just couldn't get it back around him. The track was rough, and it was good. I think it separated the men from the boys today. You know, it was rough and physical, and, you know, I've been working hard at it, and you can tell Rodney has too, and we kind of got away. And, you know, I'm sure, I mean, I had no more, so I rode as hard as I could, and it's the best I can do.
No reverse lights needed for Rodney Smith. And how satisfying, Scott, it must be to clinch your championship and win the race.
I tell you, especially from the very beginning of the year, Rodney had mechanical problems, and just about every one of us counted him out. But here we are, and Rodney just won his 4th title, and it's pretty cool.
It's just one behind you.
That's not that cool.
That's because that man's going to be back next year to try to defend the title. What a tremendous year it's been. We want to thank everybody out there, the Coombs family, Outdoor Life Network, of course, the riders and racers that made this season what it was. For Scott Summers, I'm Dave Reef. Hope you had as much fun covering the Grand National Cross Country Series as we did as Rodney Smith, the Ironman champ, the series titleist as well.